Taste, you gave yourself 82, and I'm gonna say...
Before you say what you're about to say, I have not had somebody else taste a dish for over a year. This is big. Judge me. I stand in your judgment.
Hi, I'm Kendra Vaculin, and I'm in the BA Test Kitchen to have a super secret conversation about Chris Morocco. Once again, we're putting Chris's super taster abilities to the test. This is Ree Drummond's lasagna dip and chips. We're challenging Chris to recreate this dish using every ingredient in just one day. He'll be able to smell it, taste it, and touch it, but at no point will he be able to see the dish. At the end of the day, we'll come back to taste his final creation, and I'll be the judge.
With the cloche on, I'm getting cafeteria sloppy Joe. Oh. Bits and points and what? Oh, heavens. It tastes like an oily fried cracker, triangular. They all have a wavy line on one side. Is this like fried pasta? It doesn't taste like it's leavened in the sense of having like air pockets. Frankly, like a lasagna noodle. I'm getting some kind of vessel, like a crock or a tureen. Meaty, tomatoey, like a little bit of sharpness, a little bit of like tang. See, this is what I missed. People just like clattering around in the background, slamming down. I mean, it's not quite Brad like yelling, you know, but I'll take it. I imagine this is cheese. Whoa. It's like going off like a flavor jump on your BMX. We've got cheese, and then I would have said like oregano. This is very fatty. It's very stretchy, but maybe it's a combination of mozzarella with... Sorry, I didn't see that. I didn't think the piece was quite so long. A high moisture cheese, such as like mozzarella. Maybe Parmesan in there too. There is a sharpness and a tanginess to this. I'm saying this with a lot of love. It tastes like pizza. What is this? I'm getting like a piece of skin. I think it's like diced tomato that's like resiliently holding its form. So there's something that reads as being hot Italian sausage. I feel like there's also sweet Italian sausage though, and then there's ground beef. Then there's maybe 2 layers of cheese, I would guess. I'm going with this is lasagna dip. I have no idea who did this. They want you to think that this is like a little bit over the top, and it is. I think I'm good here. I'm gonna make my grocery list. Sadly, we're still not shopping. We're gonna send somebody out for groceries, but I need to drill down on my list here. Whole milk, mozzarella, Parmesan. There's certainly mozzarella in there, but honestly, this could easily be more friggin' cheeses in there. Sweet Italian sausage, hot Italian sausage, beef, lasagna noodles. So 1 can diced tomatoes, 1 can whole peel tomato paste. I did wonder for a second if I was getting a little bit of parsley in that cheese mixture. Let's get some just to be safe. All right, I feel good about that. I think we have to tap the brakes here and acknowledge that we're back in the test kitchen. I mean, it's nice to be here. It's nice to have the light. It's nice to have like some colleagues around. It's just nice to not be like in a vacuum. It's like, what is being slapped right now? Like, what is that? It sounds like somebody's whacking like a raw turkey. Like, why would they need to do that? Is that in the recipe? These are my ingredients. I think there's 3 main elements here: sauce, cheese mixture, and then there is the fried pasta. I want to start by making the sauce. We're gonna crumble our sausage. We want the body of the sausage, but the skin's not really doing any work. There could be chili flakes. It's something to pay attention to. It doesn't have to be fully cooked. This is gonna ultimately get cooked again when it's layered and baked. I'm letting it brown a certain amount before I break it down into very small pieces. As soon as you start breaking it up, more and more liquid gets released from the sausage. That's good. It doesn't have to be brown like that all over. So in my mind, we're not browning the meat in one thing and the sausage in another. Like, this is about creating flavor in one dish and capturing all that flavor and channeling it into the dip. I think we'll just cook off I don't know, that's already like kind of a lot of meat, but we gotta fill the dish, right? The mixture needs to be fine enough that it's gonna stay on the chip. Let's chop some garlic. I'm gonna throw in a pinch of oregano. It can kind of bloom in the fat. I had a piece of tomato that really had held its shape. Just because we want the tomatoes to be diced doesn't mean we want them to like stay in their exact shape. I also think, you know, from the perspective of, you know, overall umami, depth of flavor, sweetness, tomato paste is pretty hard to beat. And like this stuff, the double concentrated, miles ahead of the stuff in the can. Even though it is a concentrated tomato product, it's still effectively raw. I want to see it literally frying in the fat. We're gonna go diced tomato. Oh, remember that time that I said I was gonna chop the garlic and said that there definitely wasn't sliced garlic in the original? And then you went ahead and just watched me put the sliced garlic in there? I'm f***ing remembering that. Noted. See how there's like pieces of tomato, and we're gonna hammer this thing and it's still gonna be there. Gonna make a little part of me die, but it's okay. We're good to return the meat. There's a fair amount of fat in here. There's relatively little liquid in here, at least as a starting point. Maybe we just need more tomato. Opened up a can of the whole. I'm gonna cook out half of it. It can kind of get to the same place that this tomato was. Totally meant to do that. So while that's all going, I'm gonna get some oil hot for frying the pasta. Throw some noodles in our water and see what happens. I have a feeling it's just being cooked until it's al dente and then dry.
Did you salt the water?
Water, did I salt the water? We're just gonna drop a piece of noodle in its raw, hard state just to see what happens. So that's like our cooked out tomato product. Going in a reduced state, all of a sudden this is looking a lot better to me. I'm getting like sweetness and I'm getting a certain acidity. I'm not getting the heat. Feel like we need some chili flakes. The original dish announced itself. You know, that heat was very present. I'm feeling pretty confident about the lasagna noodles from the standpoint of making this read as a dish, referencing a pretty classic food. If there hadn't been that wavy edge, frankly, it might have struggled. We're also gonna check the version that just went straight into the oil. Like, it's not bad. I think the pasta had to have been cooked first. Like, how are you gonna take this dry noodle and like try to cut it into triangles? You know what I mean? Like, I just look unhinged. Let's wait to fry the chips until we've assembled our thing. We're gonna work on the cheese mixture. Already extremely nervous about the possibility of just using mozzarella and parm. Mozzarella is gonna give you cheese pull. It's gonna give you that like what had to be just like horrifying view of me, like with cheese all over my face. Parm is pretty much exactly the opposite, but it has very high fat content, brings a ton of flavor and a ton of depth that I have a tendency to lean on time and time again. I don't know, here we go. I'm gonna leave to the side the question of parsley in this because I just don't know. Aroma and the flavor of a dried herb isn't really gonna be significantly altered, whereas parsley is gonna go to a much more cut grass place. All right, so I'm gonna assemble and bake, yeah? I'm thinking 2 layers of meat sauce mixture, 2 layers of cheese. Mainly what we are looking for is melty, bubbly cheese. The top had a veil of cheese cloaking a bubbly, saucy, meaty mixture. Noodles. These are noodles cooked to doneness. Get a really clean cut. That's how we're gonna achieve our chip. And let's try. That's actually really satisfying. If you didn't want to run the risk of having all your chips stick together, you could potentially bake them. But I just think you want the oil. Who's ready? Ooh. Ooh. That looks pretty fun. We have a lot of fat in there. Like maybe we were just a little bit too heavy on meat. I'm loving the color. I'm loving the fact that the Parmesan gave us that browning. And at the end of the day, it looks like a mini lasagna. I don't think anybody's gonna be upset about that. I'm just gonna get into it.
With a spoon and not the chips that you labored over?
Yes, yes, okay. Back off. Overall, the flavors are not bad. Everything is just like happening on your palate. Very flavor dense mixture. The thing that's bumming me out the most, the fat's giving great flavor, but there's so much of it, it's a little bit off-putting. Maybe 1 full can of diced, and then pulling back on the meat just slightly will kind of get us to a better balance. Feeling great about the texture of our chips. I could have made them bigger. They really shrank. YouTube commenter Matt Hunziker Hot Pants 4927 asks that you take a dip of the whole thing. The chip actually has like such a pronounced flavor. It actually competes with the dip, almost like getting in the way. That's something I need to check out in the next tasting. For ingredients, I'll say a 75. I don't know. I mean, I've been wrong about the meat before. Half sweet Italian, half like hot sausage. Like, who does that? I think I feel better about technique. The layering in the little casserole, cooking out like one meaty, saucy base, like an 85. Taste, I think like the excess richness that's in there is bumming me out, but this is again like maybe like 85, maybe even 88%. In terms of appearance, honestly, maybe that's the thing I feel best about. I'm calling that a 90. I have one more chance to try the original dish, make another version of this, and that will be the dish that the judge has to taste. I want to count the chips. 9, 10, 21, 22. So 24 chips. I feel like that's a lot of chips. Okay, that was parsley. There's something else on here. I got a piece of something that maybe had like a bunch of like fat and kind of gooiness on it that then became really hard to tell what it was. Yeah, it could just be that it's fresh oregano, not dried in the cheese mixture. But maybe there's fresh parsley in the cheese mixture too. I feel like that was our friend Diced Tomato, just like hanging out like a fart in a car, you know? Assemblage, I think we can go a little bit heavier on ground meat. The meat needs to be broken up finer. I don't know, now I'm asking myself, does the composition of the cheese layer on top feel different from the cheese layer in the middle? Or is it just the way that it cooked? It became a little bit more curdy and granular. Just would be fussy to have 2 different cheese mixtures. Relatively little fat in here. I think the tomato is like not cooked out, frankly, that much. These chips are a little crunchier than mine were. I think it might be because they are baked. I have actually some substantive changes to make for the next round, so I am ready to do my next version of the dish. All right, what's the same is mostly the ingredients. However, I'm using less meat. We're also gonna chop the garlic this time. No thanks to you guys. I wanna brown all the meat at once. I'm gonna do garlic on top of that. There's no time to second guess yourself. It's combat. I kind of crowded the skillet, a lot of water being released from that meat, and it's inhibiting browning. But browning has implications for flavor. It's gonna deepen and intensify flavors. In contrast to the way I did this before, I'm not taking the meat out of the skillet. Seasoned with salt and pepper, I'm going to reduce the tomato on top of the meat, which is something I said I absolutely didn't want to do. Something tells me that the person who created this recipe is not f***ing around putting things in and out of skillets. Like, they're just like going for it. Tomato going in. Like, this to me is so Rachel Ray. A cute and clever idea, well executed. When you do it as a dip, you kind of like open up an even bigger space for whom lasagna seems like a big project to tackle. I am adding like about a half teaspoon of the crushed red pepper flakes. I think it just helps with overall flavor. What other cheese goes into lasagna? It's hard for me to answer that question. Parm, pecorino, provolone, mozzarella.
You described this as a not fancy dish. What if we de-fancy our cheeses?
Like the last cheese I ate at home was like aged in like birchwood. There's literally a fucking piece of wood around the cheese.
Do you Do you remember what cheese regular people eat, Chris?
I've maybe lost touch a little bit when it comes to cheese. So noodles, we're gonna do tests of oven baking. There's a chance that these chips could have been baked in the oven, just like coated with oil. And so, I don't know, we're gonna go for that. In my mind, it was just salt. I really wasn't looking for anything on the chip itself. Probably should have thought about that a little bit more. Like, are you putting dried oregano on the f***ing chips, but fresh oregano in the cheese? Like, what kind of f***ing recipe is this? The fresh oregano will become dried in the oven. So, either way, I'm right. Let's get that in. Meanwhile, let's assemble our mixture and get this thing going. We gotta make a cheese mixture. You can make a lasagna that's got ricotta in it, fine. But like, ricotta doesn't perform that well. It's not doing what bechamel does. Bechamel is f***ing liquid, delicious velvet. It is completely transformative. So in the cheese mixture, we've got mozzarella, we've got Parmesan, we've got fresh parsley, fresh oregano, black pepper. I don't know, everything about that felt wrong now. I don't hate what's happening so far with the chips. Keeping in mind like the notion of like makeability, there's a much higher percent chance that the chips are baked rather than fried. Most people do not want to deep fry at home. Like, what a fucking pain. Look at how that just sticks to everything. Leaning way more into the idea of this being a baked thing, which is kind of cool. It never really occurred to me that you could bake a pasta chip. They look very crunchy and they have like a slight puffiness. I'm hoping they'll get a little bit like crispier as they dry, but for ease of use, I think that was pretty solid. Okay, great. The oil is not something I'm prepared to talk about. It's also like juicier. There's a little bit of a layer of oil on top, and then underneath I see a layer of tomato juice, you know? So, I mean, maybe that's gonna put us in better stead. Putting my chips in the front, all 24 of them. Don't bother to count because they're all there. For ingredients, giving myself an 80. Maybe we got a little bit closer with those herbs. There's some kind of cheese, massive cheese up happening here. Everybody knows it. Technique, I think the big gamble here was my different technique on making the sauce correct. Let's say 85%. For taste, I'm gonna give myself an 82. Something's happening with the cheese, I know it. Appearance, I'm gonna go 88. Might have had like a liquid imbalance in the end and gone too liquidy with this. So that brings me to an 84 average, which if that is actually what I receive in my final score, I would be pretty happy with. But this is the dish I have to present to the judge. So here goes nothing.
Hi.
Hey, how's it going?
How'd you do today?
I mean,
I heard some struggling.
Okay, was I struggling?
I heard some self-doubt is
I feel
what
like,
I heard.
you know, you're just trying to get yourself in the head of like, who is making what I think is sort of lasagna adjacent something like into a dip and like really kind of like having fun with it.
Yeah. Do you have a guess for what the dish is called and who made it?
I think this is Rachel Ray's lasagna dip.
May I present to you Ree Drummond's lasagna dip and chips?
Ooh.
Ta-da!
Are those chips baked in the oven?
They are.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got there. A little less color.
A little
but
blonde.
there's some bits and bobs happening on this chip that you didn't get, which is Parmesan.
Oh, really? Pre-bake parm?
Yeah.
Okay.
I gotta taste your
Was
chip
that
now.
parsley on there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And basil.
Oh, you don't get it.
The big thing that I think is gonna maybe blow your mind a little bit is there is an ingredient inside of this dip that is a unique choice. Do you wanna know?
Not really.
Okay, well,
Is it possible to grade me and walk out of here and for me never to have known what it is?
it was cottage cheese. And in the cheese blend, that's where the basil featured.
Oh, you know, it's like I had like a whole diatribe about ricotta not belonging in lasagna.
Right.
Cottage cheese is like sneaking in the side door.
Mm.
You know, you're...
Well, this is ricotta and cottage cheese. Cheese blend, ricotta, cottage cheese, parm, and then the basil. And in the assembly, you got the parsley and the basil there too.
There was an interesting sharpness. The cottage cheese gives you like a tiny bit of brightness. What about the tomato?
You did the tomato right.
Diced?
Yep.
On top of the meat?
Yes, on top of the meat. Okay, can we try yours?
Yeah.
I have to judge it after all. I want to say when you were like having pizza vibes, yours tastes more like pizza to me.
Uh-huh.
And this one tastes more like lasagna to me, I think because of that creamy cheese bits.
Yeah.
Okay.
What about the meat?
The two meats are ground beef and spicy pork sausage.
Got it. Is there tomato paste in it?
There is.
No
For ingredients, you gave yourself an 80. I'm going to give you an 88. The cheese, obviously,
Yeah.
a problem, but everything else you pretty much nailed. For technique, you gave yourself an 85. I'm going to give you a 92.
Undershot it, which doesn't often happen.
You did really
Okay.
good. Taste, you gave yourself 82, and I'm going to say...
Before you say what you're about to say, I have not had somebody else taste a dish for over a year. This is big. You know, this is why we're here. Judge me. I stand in your judgment.
I'm going to give you an 85.
Okay.
Because of the creaminess, this just tastes like lasagna, and this tastes more like pizza to me.
Okay.
And for appearance, finally, you gave yourself an 88. And I'm going to give you a 90. No one would think these are two different things, but with an eagle eye, yours is a little more crispy roasty,
Yeah.
and this is a little bit more like herbaceous cheesy.
Yeah, totally fair.
So all in, that comes out to an 89. If you go beg your teacher, she could maybe round up to an A-, but like,
Need some extra credit.
you should be very proud.
I feel really good about that. This was like a really like easy and fun dish, you know, like makes you smile. Being back here is a total joy. This totally has like Friday night, like 7 p.m. vibes when like everybody else has literally gone home. So it's like a crappy note to end on, but it's huge to be back here. Us being alone at home didn't quite feel like the same thing. So I think it's gonna make us all really a lot stronger. Pecorino, like cheddar cheese. Regular people eat cheddar cheese, right?